Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our second annual Penn Foster Virtual Early Childhood Professional Development and Career Fair. We're really excited to be here and we're looking forward to a wonderful rest of the week. We have 3 more full days of sessions, so we hope you're joining us. My name is Sarah Owens and I'm one of the early childhood instructors here at Penn Foster, and I'm going to be the host for this evening's session. We are going to be starting in just a couple of minutes, but before we begin, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. I just want to take a moment to ensure that everybody is ready and familiar with our webinar control panel. First, you should have a control panel on the right side of your screen, and you can minimize this panel or expand this panel by clicking on the arrow in the upper left corner. If you just want to take a minute to practice that. Second, you do have the ability to submit questions using the question pane located near the bottom of the control panel. So just to test that out, make sure everybody's able to find it, you're able to hear us okay and see our screen. If you could just share with us where you're joining us from. And while you're doing that, today's session is called Voice Development in Early Childhood. And Martin Picard is our presenter, so I'm going to share with him as well where you all are joining us from. And we have students from Ohio, New Jersey, right here in Pennsylvania, which is where I'm located, Texas, Arizona, Maryland, North Dakota, Florida. It looks like we have most of the United States covered. Thank you for sharing that information with us. And just remember that if at any point during the session you have any questions, you have something to share in relation to what we're speaking about, please just submit it through the questions box. If we don't get to it immediately, we will be taking a look at those throughout the session and also at the end. And we do have someone joining us from Antigua. So like I said, our presenter is Martin, and he's going to go ahead and introduce himself and then get started. Welcome, Martin. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Hello, thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to have you all here. I hope I will be able to share some useful information with you, and let me know if you have any additional questions. I myself am by profession mathematician, but I've always been very interested in music, and my wife Patricia is also a very successful music teacher and performer. She has a lot of experience and knowledge and also success with her pupils. She's teaching in the public music school, and also we are running a private music school for preschool music education and also for instruments for pupils. Well, actually, we are from Central Europe, from Slovenia, which is a country right between Venice and Vienna. And we have a very long and very rich tradition of culture, especially music, and especially choral music. And also, me and Patricia, we actually met at the choir, which is one of the best choirs in Europe, and actually, well, we've been together for 17 years now, and I somehow I help her also a lot, and also wanted to share the knowledge and the experience that we have with others. That's why we also founded EduMusica.es web portal, and also some other resources, and also, well, we hope that we can help you with becoming a better educator, especially for right now we are focusing on preschool music education, so this is useful for kindergarten educators, babysitters, and also the parents themselves. Okay. This is the introduction itself. And today we'll be talking about how to develop voice of preschool children. This will be our topic. Well, a short intro. I've already mentioned the two of us. This is Patricia, and this is me. And we've also published 2 Kindle books, which are very short and concise, and they contain actionable advice, tips, and activities how to do that. And we also plan to give out one of those books for free in the next week. If you'll sign up at our website, we'll send you information how to get it. But okay, more about it later on. So let's get on to the topic, singing. Voice is really our primary instrument. Already when we are born, the first thing that we do is we cry. And this is already some way of singing. Actually, music itself is meant to communicate with others. We express ourselves, our emotions, our feelings, our inner world. We express it and show it to the others. And music is the simplest way, the most profound way that touches our souls. And voice is our primary instrument, which is the most natural and the simplest way for us to express all that. And this is why singing is very important, not just for, I don't know, music education or whatever, but it's because this is the easiest way how to connect with the others. Of course, later on, it's also important for, let's say, playing instruments, because we need to sing also with our inner voice. Perhaps sometimes, you know, the best jazz players, when they improvise, they're always singing what they play, maybe out loud or just inside, but they always play. They know what they will play on a piano or on a guitar or something like that. They sing it before. And also, for instance, Patricia plays the organ. She has a couple of musical degrees from the Academy, Music Pedagogics and Church Music, and also organ. And for instance, when you play organ, there's a huge difference if you sing inside and play, or if you just press the keys, the notes that are written on the score. You know, it's really, the difference is really obvious. The beginnings. Of course, as I already mentioned, we start using our voice in the very early stage, as soon as we are born. Actually, we already recognize the songs that were, for instance, there was scientific research that showed that if parents were singing to the baby when it was still in the womb, you know, when it was born, it recognized the same music. That's why Claudia says that music education has to start 9 months before the child is born. And the majority of the brain develops within the first year of life. Music is, babies are so-called universal listeners within the first year. They're able to differentiate different sounds. For instance, I don't speak Chinese. I never did. Well, when I was a kid, I didn't hear it at all. And therefore, I'm not able to tell the difference between some words in Chinese. However, babies are able to do that within the first year. And if within the first year they will not hear those sounds, they will not be able to recognize them later on, because the brain, the majority of the brain has already developed. And if you did not get certain impulses up to that time, then you will not be able to recognize it. For instance, there were also some experiments with kittens. Some were raised in an environment which only had horizontal lines, and the others just the vertical lines. And if the kittens were brought up in environment with only horizontal lines, the cat could jump on the table, but it didn't see the legs of the table. They were just bumping into the legs of tables because they could not recognize vertical lines. They did not have this notion or the concept of the vertical line at all, because they have never seen that. And that's why it's important to present the kid a lot of different, various and quality music, to immerse them in the musical landscape, which is very rich, diverse. Every teaching, learning process has the same structure. First is immersion, so the child has to be immersed into the musical world, into a rich musical landscape. Then the second is imitation. The child tries to imitate what it hears. And third is innovation. The child tries to create something new, but that new can only be based on the building blocks that he had already seen and heard, already received in the past. And that's why the beginnings are very important. You should really present a lot of different quality music to the kid. Of course, it's important that you sing to the kid a lot, because this is the most natural connection, especially the parents. They should sing lullabies and other songs, because it's the simplest, the most natural connection with the kid. It's also important that you don't force the kids to sing. They will sing when they're ready. It's similar to, for instance, walking. Some kids start to walk earlier, some a bit later, but they will do it when they're ready. Unless if they have some really serious illness or damage or something like that. But usually the kids will start doing that when they're ready. You just need to encourage them, but don't force them. Just provide them with everything that they need to do it. Also, one of the things that's extremely important is start with high pitch. It's always better. You will not be too high for children, but you can be too low for children. So it's always better to do it higher. And here's also a picture that explains that. I hope majority of you knows all about that, but still some may not, and I would like to take a minute or two to explain that. The picture below shows, let's say, a cord which is fixed on both sides, and you can see the vibrations. So the length of the cord is 1/2 of the wavelength, and the cord below, noted with B, it's fixed also in the middle. So the wavelength is 1/2 of the total cord, meaning the frequency is twice as high. And for the children, we produce our voice with vocal cords. And children are much smaller than we are, of course. All their body parts are smaller, and also their vocal cords are much smaller. And if the frequency is twice as high, that means an octave. So the ratio between the frequency of two pitches which are in an octave is 2. Ratio is 2 of the frequency. Meaning for the kids, if they're half your size, then they will be able to produce sounds which are 1 octave higher than you. If they're even smaller, then it might be even more. And they will actually not be able to produce lower sounds, not properly. They can do something like, I'm a baritone and I don't have an extremely low voice. And for instance, if I would want to sing low, I would start to gargle to produce some weird, funny noises. And this is also what the kids do. If you sing too low to them, they will try to replicate that sound, but that will be too low for their physiological capabilities. And what they'll do is they'll start growling. And this is something that happens very often because children hear a lot of songs on the radio or so on, or perhaps maybe their father sings to them. And this music is too low for them, but they'll try to replicate, and eventually they will spoil their voice. The singing technique will not be proper, and it is harmful for them. So really sing high, especially if you're male, like me, use falsetto. Sing in high voice. Okay. So covering the beginnings, one of the first things that we can introduce to the children is the sound movement. So speaking or singing higher and lower. Babies can sing already, we've mentioned that, but just not so controlled. They can tell us if they're crying, we know that they don't like something, but if they're laughing, they're happy and so on. However, they have to learn how to control their voice even better. And they have to explore it, of course, like they explore movements of their arms, legs, the head, lips, and so on. They also explore movements and controlling of their vocal cords, larynx, mouth, tongue, and so on. And they actually have to explore it and learn how to control it. One of the best, well, we focus in our training, in our programs on years of kids age 3 to 6. However, this is already important even before, so for the babies. One of the easiest way to somehow experience that sound movement going up and down is to do glissandos, like ooh, ooh. In this way they can explore their voice, they can warm up their vocal cords and so on. Also, it's important to explore the whole spectrum of sound, because music is not just our scale, major, minor scale, and so on. There's so much more in music than just the half tones and the whole tones and so on. A lot of micro intervals that are perhaps more used in some other cultures, like maybe in Middle East or India and so on. They're more familiar with those micro intervals. And this is something that also has to be presented to the child. We should not shut those doors. Okay. Another thing also that's interesting is, we say that sound goes up or down, but that's an artificial definition. Sound doesn't have a height as such. Also, the children at the beginning, when we ask them, well, which sound was higher, they're confused. They don't know. we have to teach them what we believe is higher and lower. But actually, sound only has wavelength or frequency, and actually higher number of frequency, we define that as higher sound, higher pitch. But that's not really natural to the children. We have to introduce that concept to them. And it's pretty easy to do that with various glissandos, like ooh, we go up, and ooh, we go down. And perhaps we can also accompany it with the movements of our hands. For instance, when we go up, ooh, we also move our hand up. And when we go down, ooh, we move our hand down. And in this way, they will somehow connect this movement up with a certain pitch or sound movement, and going down with another. Also, a useful activity, especially for the beginning, is imitation of animals. For instance, imitation of the wolves when they're howling, like oh, oh, oh. Or maybe some kittens, meow, meow, and so on. We can do a lot of these glissandos here, and also learn how to be expressive, how to express different emotions, maybe be louder or more quiet, and different timbres of the sound and so on. So we have to let the children explore their voices and learn how to use them. And when they're somehow familiar with the making of the voice, then we can also invite them to improvise, to do melodic improvisations. And these melodic improvisations, they can originate from speech. We can have a dialogue between, let's say, the teacher and the child. Well, the speech, actually, every language or every dialect has a certain melody, has certain characteristics. I remember when I was traveling around the world, once I was waiting in a queue somewhere at a museum, and I heard somebody talking, da 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 da, and I didn't understand the words, but I recognized the melody of that person, and I knew that's a certain dialect from a certain part of the country. And actually, I went there, and of course, I was right, because every language has a certain melody. If you will be careful in listening to it, you will see that that's true, actually. And this can also give you foundations for developing some kind of melodies. For instance, at the beginning, you can simply talk with the child. How are you? I'm fine. What have you been doing today? I was eating breakfast and then drawing. Oh, what did you draw? And so on. And you can see there's a lot of melodic improvisation going on in that kind of speech. But of course, you can also do later on, at the beginning you start with speech. Later on, you can also do that without words, maybe just some syllables or just some sounds like and you can see that that can be very expressive. So for instance, I know if you know that the song Lily Was Here, da dum da dum ba bum ba bum da 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 da. It's a really nice example of dialogue between two musicians, And they don't use any words, they just play their instruments. However, it feels like talking. It feels like they're saying something. And it's really this basic characteristic of music that it wants to communicate something. Okay, these dialogues can be either sequential or a group improvisation or something like that. At the beginning, it's best to start with the group because, the kids will not be afraid, they will not stand out, and it will be easier for them. And for instance, maybe you can all do howling wolves, and so on. You can also have some background music, just to, or maybe play something on an instrument, on a piano or whatever, if you can. And this will be easier for them. Later on, you can also do sequential dialogues. For instance, one child, teacher, another child, teacher, third child, teacher, and so on. But of course, they'll have to know that they're good at this, and they're able to do that. Don't force the kids, just somehow let them volunteer, perhaps, at the beginning. But then you'll know, of course, if you have some music classes, you get to know them and you know which ones are capable and willing to do something, and perhaps maybe which ones sometimes want to avoid it, or at least in the beginning. So each one perhaps might be an animal, like a bird, a wolf, a cat, a cow, a dog, or whatever, just be creative, choose from whatever you know and what the kids know and what the kids like, and so on. And also, this sequence, it's best if it's mixed. It's not good if you have just a line of children and go first, second, third, and so on. Because the one that's on the end of the line, he'll know he doesn't have anything to do for a few more minutes and he won't pay attention. So it's best if you just do some improvisation, and then in the last few seconds, you focus on one of the kids, you look at him, give him a sign, show him, okay, you're next, and then he should do some improvisation. In this way, they're all alert because they don't know who's going to be next. And you are really controlling the happening, and everyone is really involved. So when they're already familiar with making sounds and also being expressive, showing their emotions and so on, and just communicating something, then the next thing is to learn them how to be precise. So the first thing is finding the right pitch. Okay, one of the very nice tools or instruments to do that is using a slide whistle. Here we have a picture with an example. You can see Patricia with a slide whistle, and on the table there are some curves, and if we would sing that, it would be something like woo, woo, woo. And this is a way how to introduce some graphic notation of music. The process is pretty similar to historical development of the musical notation during the Middle Ages and so on. In the beginning, the Gregorian chant did not have any music notation. It was just the text. And people had to learn the melodies and transfer it from one generation to another. But later on, some simple notations started to occur, So at the beginning, there were some simple signs on the top of the text, just showing, if the melody goes up or down or stays the same or something else special happens. And then this became more and more elaborate. Eventually, they started to use the staff, first with 4 lines and then with 5 lines, with notes on the staff. And a similar process can be used also for introduction of music notation to the kids. This is what we do with the slide whistle here. So we play some melodic patterns and also show them with the hand, so going up and down to reinforce the notation of the height of the pitch. And also the slide whistle is very useful because if you hold it in a vertical position and you pull it out, your hand goes down, and also the sound becomes lower. Ooh. And you can say, okay, look at the hand. When the hand goes down, also we make a lower sound. And if the hand goes up, the sound is higher. So it's a nice way to introduce the concept of height of the sound, of the pitch. Okay, so let's get back to the singing. With the slide whistle, we can also play a certain pitch to the kids and have them repeat that. And if they're not successful at repeating that, it's best if we go to their pitch, then slide towards the right pitch. Just show them how to correct it to do it right way. So for instance, if we play do and then they sing do, then we go to their pitch do and slide to the right one. This is a very nice and effective way how to somehow help them direct towards the goal, so that they can improve and eventually they will find the right pitch. So our experience is that majority of kids of age, let's say 4, are pretty well able to repeat the right pitch. Some are earlier, some already at the age of 2. Some may also have problems at the age of 5. It depends on various factors. However, let's say on average at the age of 4, they're pretty much able to do that. Of course, for singing, usually we do it at higher pitch than speaking, and we also need more energy. It's very often a problem nowadays because kids don't move so much. They don't have so much energy. They just watch television. They play some apps, games on the tablets and so on. They're sitting all day long. They don't run, jump, climb as they did in the past. Also, a lot of people live in apartments, and in apartments they're not allowed to shout because the neighbors will be angry and so on. So everybody has to shut up and be quiet and so on. And so the kids are not used to give a lot of energy into such activities, either moving their bodies, which is also very important, or also producing sound, expressing themselves. Because the parents always say, well, shut up, I'm tired of you. So we have to somehow bring that out at children, to be able to invest more energy into certain activities through moving and also through singing, so that they actually find their own voice. and be able to express themselves. And also, as I already mentioned, very important, don't forget it, speak higher with children, and especially for male teachers, use falsetto as often as possible. Because that's the only thing that children will be able to reproduce. If you sing in a normal voice, children are not able to repeat that, and it will cause problems for them. Okay, when you're already mastering this, also finding the right pitch, then, well, even before, but of course, well, it's a process. You should also sing simple songs. Of course, once again, don't force them to sing. Just invite them somehow. But if they're not ready to do it, it's not a problem. Okay. However, when you start singing, use simple sounds, as simple as possible. For instance, for the very beginning, even Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star might be too complex. Maybe a very simple thing is just mimicking the cuckoo bird. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. It's already a nice song, very simple, two different tones. The interval is a third, which is not too much, and it's already a nice start. For instance, or there's a nice song just with three different tones. La 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 la. Something like this, very simple for the beginning. Of course, sing to them complex, interesting songs. However, when you want them to repeat after you, to imitate you, then start with the very simple songs. So they should be, let's say, 3 to 5 different tones. The span, the ambitus, should be small. They should master simple things before they move on to more complex. It doesn't have to be a long time. Maybe if you have classes every week, once a week, maybe they will master it in 2 weeks, or maybe 1 month, or perhaps half a year. It's different from one child to another, or from one group to another, but keep in mind that this is the general process, how things should be done. You can also transpose different songs, start at different pitches, and that's already what makes it more interesting. For instance, you can say that there are small and big birds. For instance, cuckoo, a baby, cuckoo, cuckoo, mother, cuckoo, cuckoo, and a father, cuckoo, cuckoo. And then you can make up a story about that, and they can perhaps try to recognize which one was it. Was it the mother, or the father, or the baby, or something like that. So make it interesting, but not too complex at the beginning. Make it simple at the beginning, and then move on to more complex. With different songs, you can use the lyrics or maybe just one syllable, because at the beginning it will be easier for them to remember, like you don't need to use the lyrics at the beginning, just to make them remember some simple melodic pattern. However, later on, of course, lyrics are very welcome, because it does train their brains. If they learn the lyrics, especially if the lyrics are rhymed, it's much easier for them and also more interesting. So of course, also learning a lot of different poems, lyrics later on is very beneficial. But you don't need to start with that, you know. You have to see when they master some level and then move on to next. Of course, when they do, you can also already start more complex songs. And I really encourage you to use the songs from your culture, from your tradition, because that's actually who you are. That's your community. It's reflecting through the cultural heritage that you have. And songs are a very important part of that. And so really teach children songs from your tradition. That is very beneficial. However, also it's good that you do later on some songs with different intervals or different chords hidden in the melody and so on, because this will be very useful later on when they teach the music theory. The best way to recognize or to learn some intervals or some chords to be able to recognize them is that you learn a song which has the interval in it. For instance, here you have intervals and chords, you know. Let's say the major chord is hidden in the song, and the children will recognize that easily. So let's say 5-year-old kids can recognize the difference between major and minor chords without problems. So these kind of songs are also very useful. However, of course, it's interesting to spice it up with something foreign, especially micro intervals. I think is something that's very interesting. Micro intervals are used, let's say, in India, Middle East, and perhaps some other cultures also. It's a different. It gives a different flavor to the music. It's really like spices in the food. You know, you can be used to having burgers, but it's interesting to try something, I don't know, Thai or African or whatever, you know, every now and then, just to see that the world is different. It's always nice to meet someone new, and you can meet and get to know different culture also through their songs. For instance, let's say the African music is really based on rhythm, has very strong and characteristic rhythms. Let's say India has those micro intervals also hidden in there. And there are also, you know, different other cultures, and everyone brings something that is interesting and lovely. And we should also embrace that and encourage respect for others and other cultures also. Okay, maybe just one more idea for a specific activity that also introduces the posture of the kids. So correct posture for singing. We've learned that from conductor of Vienna Boys Choir. They're using that, and we call it the musical trees. And the activity goes something like that. Actually, they have to stand and think that roots are coming out of their feet into the ground so that they really stand firmly. Then they move a little bit, lean towards left, right, front, back. Then they move with their arms like their branches. And then, let's say, the leaves start to grow, then blossoms, and then at the end they have fruits on their branches and so on. So it's a nice activity to learn the correct posture for singing, because that's also important. Body movement is a really essential part of also making music and also being a healthy individual later on. Okay, these are the basic things that I wanted to say. Now I want to know if there are any questions about what I was talking. Do you have any questions?
Martin, one question did come in when you were speaking about culture, and this person asked, shouldn't we be reflecting more on the children's culture?
Yes, of course. This is what I said at the beginning. Teach them songs from your own tradition. You should not, I mean the children's tradition, I meant, or the tradition of the environment, of course. If the children are Native Americans, of course you should try to encourage them to learn as many tribal songs as possible, because it's their cultural heritage, and they should take care of it, and it speaks about who they are. If they're, I don't know, if they're Spanish, then they should sing some of their songs. If they come from Asia, also that their tradition is important, and they should learn about it and nurture it, So it's important somehow to respect your roots, to know who you are, where you come from, but also important to be open towards the others. World is a huge and a wonderful place, and it's really nice to see it and get to know people from all around and learn from them.
She said thank you for clarifying.
Yes, of course. Thank you for the question.
Does anyone have any additional questions?
Okay, perhaps when we're waiting for them, maybe just a few more words about us. So we've set up a web portal, EduMusica, where we have also some free resources, but also some courses or trainings are available, and so on. I mentioned me and Patricia, we met at the choir, and also we're thinking about preparing a course with our conductor. He actually won 2 Europe Grand Prix prizes, which are actually the most important competitions for amateur choirs in Europe, and also a lot of choirs from other places of the world come. And there's a lot of knowledge and experience that we would be able to share. Also, for instance, we have a short video course with examples and explanations of the music activities at 10bestmusicgames.com. One of the music activity is also the musical tree that I mentioned, the one that handles the posture. And those 10 activities, actually, they covered the most important things. Developing the sense of pitch, developing the sense of rhythm, singing, and body movements. These are the most important things about especially early childhood music development, music introduction. And those 10 activities really cover the beginnings very well. However, we also plan some expert courses and some trainings and so on. It's really important that you are able to have a coach that guides you. My father was an athlete. He was also at the Olympic Games, and he went to United States to train there because the world champion was there, and he wanted him to be his coach. He said to me, learn from the best, because this is the best and fastest way how to get results, how to become successful at what you do. To have somebody with experience which is able to guide you to get results. And also we plan on having a live event in United States also next summer, presumably in late July. We'll still have to decide on the location. However, just write us to info@edumusica.es if you have any questions, or if you want to learn anything more, or if you have some needs, just let us know and we'll try to help you solve any problems that you might have. We are also helping some schools with their curricula, because Slovenia is very interesting. The country where I come from is very interesting. It has a very well developed public music school system. We actually have a network of public music schools subsidized by the state, which is kind of parallel to the public school system, just only focuses on music. And the system is really well developed, and we have very good results because it's practically available to everyone. And I think a lot of people, a lot of countries could also learn from our experience and benefit from it. Okay, any more questions?
Yes, somebody had said, sorry, I have to scroll back up. What if the kids are not interested in singing, but they're more interested in instruments? What approach does a teacher use then?
Of course, they have to do everything, It's all connected, and you have to have a holistic approach. Singing, in our music classes, singing is not everything that we do. Singing is just one part, let's say one of the 4 most important issues. And of course, we also do instruments. We use rattles, cymbals, bells, xylophones, metallophones, a lot of drums, a lot of different things. And of course, some kids are more interested in this, some more in that, but everyone should be introduced to all the activities. Just like in regular school, somebody likes math more than languages or science or something. But you have to learn a little bit about everything. But of course, you develop more whatever you're really interested in. This is where you become a master. But you can't be a good instruments player if you can't sing. Especially this inner voice, is very important for playing the instrument. If the performer will not sing inside while playing, then the performance will be very poor. That's for sure. So you have to develop the child with a holistic approach. So the voice was just one of the issues, one of the topics that I focused on today. Of course, it's not everything, but it's one of the very fundamental issues. As I mentioned, voice is our primary instrument, and it's the most natural, and it's easiest for us to express something through our voice. It's much easier to sing something than to play something on the instrument. It's much more natural. However, of course, the goal of music education is also producing good instrumental musicians. of course, but it's just one of the steps or phases uh, in the process.
Great, thank you. Someone else also asked, how does musical training help develop language and reasoning?
Well, a lot of scientific research have shown that musical training helps with better intelligence and so on. For instance, recently I've heard that dyslexia is connected to poor um, understanding or uh, poor development of some senses of rhythm in the brain. So if you don't have the sense of rhythm well developed, then it might affect your reading skills severely. And also, as I mentioned, the languages, every language has a specific melody. And if you have a musical ear which is well developed, you will be able um, to learn other languages more easily. And perhaps not just learn, you will be able to speak them better. Because, well, you can learn the words and the writing, but the pronunciation is very important. And if you don't have your singing apparatus well developed, well trained, then it's also more difficult for you to maybe pronounce some words. I know, like Italians don't use the word H or don't pronounce that, and they are not able to say house. They say house. This is what I also mentioned. Children are so-called universal listeners until the age of 1 year. So if they will not hear something, some kind of sound, then they will not be able to repeat that or even recognize that in later life. So it's very important for you to give them a lot of various quality music, but not just music. It might be also beneficial for them to hear different languages, maybe just on the television, maybe just if you play them for a few minutes, some Spanish channels, some Russian, some Chinese, or something like that, so that they at least get some impulse about what is out there, because that will be helpful for them in the later life. I hope I answered the question.
I think you have.
Okay, perfect.
And everybody's just giving a lot of positive feedback that they definitely agree about listening to different languages as well as different types of music, and that you've presented a lot of fantastic information that they're now going to try implementing into their programs as well.
Wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that.
So I'm just going to move forward here. If you did log into the presentation from a computer and were able to see the PowerPoint and hear us, an email with the link to your certificate will be sent to you within 1 hour. If you do not receive your email, please check your junk or spam folders to ensure that they weren't sent there by accident. And in the same email is the link. You will find a link to a survey. Please complete the survey to assist us in planning future events. And if you have not registered yet, we have sessions, like I said, every day for the rest of the week. So tomorrow is Wednesday, our third day of sessions, and the first one will be at 10 a.m. And it's Who's There to Protect the Child, supporting mandated reporters of suspected child abuse. And that if you haven't registered yet, you still have time. You can register right up until the session begins. And Martin, I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. You've provided us with a lot of information. And like I said, you were getting a lot of great feedback here
Thank you very much.
on everything. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. I was also happy to share that with you, and also here to hope to hear from you in the future, from you and all the attendees. Thank you very much.
You're welcome and thank you. And I hope everyone has a great evening. Bye, everybody.
Bye.